Welcome, my children. Let's dive into the ocean of knowledge. Ooh. Here are 50 amazing facts to blow your mind. There's a sport called Basa Ball. The concept was created between 2003 and 2005 by Philip Ekmans, a Belgian who was living in Spain. It's a game between two teams that combines the elements of volleyball, football, and gymnastics with music. It's played on an inflatable court that has a trampoline on each side of the net. Oh, that doesn't sound confusing at all. It sounds like a good time. German fashion designer Anke Damask creates clothing out of sour milk. She extracts strands of protein from the milk, then spins the fiber into yarn. She uses what she describes as a big noodle machine to mix the ingredients together, and it spits out textile fibers from the nozzle at the end. Yes, this is as gross as it sounds. There's a house in the village of Ziembark, Poland that is completely upside down. It was designed by Polish businessman and philanthropist Daniel Sierpacki as an artwork to represent the end of the communist era in Poland, which was a time of uncertainty. It was finished in 2007 and took approximately 5 times longer than a conventional house to construct. Part of the reason for this was the disorientation experienced by the tradesmen that were working on it. So wait, does the toilet go upside down too? There is a 10-story hotel in Langfang, China called the Tianzi Hotel that is made up of 3 Chinese gods. Shu, the symbol of longevity, Fu, who stands for good luck, and Lu, who represents prosperity. In 2010, the Iranian government banned Western hairstyles that included ponytails, mullets, and elaborate spikes. You know, I actually agree with the mullet ban because all they really say about you is your hobbies include sexual harassment and taking advantage of intoxicated employees at the company Christmas party. The Dr. Seuss best-selling book Green Eggs and Ham had only one word with more than one syllable, the word anywhere. In fact, he wrote the book as the result of a bet. He was challenged to write a book using just 50 words. Russia didn't consider beer an alcohol until 2011. It was previously classified as a soft drink because it had less than 10% alcohol. Literally anybody could buy it from street kiosks or at railway stations, as well as countless 24-hour corner shops, just like fruit juice and mineral water. Alfred Hitchcock's thriller Psycho was the first American film to show a toilet flushing on screen. Yes, you know what would make this shot better? Flushing some poopy down the toilet. Let's get to it, people. Clamping your nostrils and mouth shut during a sneeze could damage your eardrums or sinuses or cause an ear infection. Sneezes are surprisingly forceful. The sudden, powerful expulsion of air can propel mucus droplets at rates of up to 100 miles per hour. You are up to 2 centimeters taller in the morning than at night because throughout the day of walking and standing, the cartilage in your spine gets compressed. A group of pugs is called a grumble. Let's just take a moment to recognize the cuteness of that. Okay, let's move on. The only 3 countries in the world that don't use the metric system are Liberia, Burma, and the United States of America. According to a 2010 report published in the Wall Street Journal, during a 1-hour regulation football game, the total of all plays averages just 11 minutes. Ghost peppers can be so hot that they can actually burn a hole in your esophagus. Its heat is measured at 1 million units on the Scoville scale, a per mass measure of capsaicin, the chemical compound that imbues peppers with heat. For some context/comparison, a regular jalapeno is only about 2,500 on the scale. Who wants to poop fire? John Quincy Adams was the first son of a former president who became president himself. George H.W. Bush and George W. Bush are the only other father-son presidents. There are people who suffer from a phobia called porphyrophobia, which is the fear of the color purple. Drug kingpin Pablo Escobar had his own private zoo with about 200 animals. Many of the animals were smuggled into the country on his drug planes. President Obama's Secret Service code name was Renegade. Louis Braille was only 15 years old when he developed Braille in 1824. Having been blind since the age of 3, he was inspired to find a way for the blind to read and write. Christopher Columbus did almost as much traveling after he died as he did in his life. After he died in 1506, he was buried in Valladolid, Spain. 3 years later, his remains were taken to his family in a mausoleum in Sevilla. In 1542, his remains were moved to Santo Domingo, Hispaniola, in accordance with his son's will. Then in 1795, his bones were moved to Havana, and finally, more than 100 years later, they were sent back to Sevilla in 1898. Just let the man rest, damn! Harry Truman, the 33rd president, and Gerald Ford, the 38th president, both died on December 26th. The title Mrs. or MRS has an R in it because the abbreviation is derived from mistress, not Mrs. The sun and all the planets of the solar system are round because the gravitational force of the planet's mass pulls all of its material towards the center, which smooths out any non-roundness. It's not flat, okay? The planet is not flat. Moving on. The closest star to Earth is Proxima Centauri, which is 4.24 light years away. For some context, a single light year is 9.44 trillion kilometers. If you didn't catch that, it's far away. About 20% of South Korea's population of almost 50 million people have the family name of Kim. That's over 10 million people! It's illegal in some states to take a selfie at the voting booth. You can be fined or even face jail time if you do. Look at me, everybody, I voted! What? The first ever TV commercial shown in the United States was on July 1st, 1941. It was a shaky 10-second commercial for Bulova watches, and it aired just before a Brooklyn Dodgers and Philadelphia Phillies baseball game. It cost $9. You can purchase beer with your meal at McDonald's in Germany, France, Greece, Portugal, South Korea, and Austria. McBeer. There are slightly more jails and prisons in the United States, about 5,000 plus, than degree-granting colleges and universities. In fact, in the South, there are more people living in prisons than on college campuses. Heladeria Coromodo in Merida, Venezuela is the ice cream parlor with the most flavors in the world, with almost 1,000 flavors. Some examples of flavors are spaghetti and cheese, cream of crab, vodka lime, smoked trout, and bacon and eggs. Okay, that all sounds gross. That last one doesn't sound too bad though. Bacon. When you stretch or stiffen yourself, such as your arms and legs when waking or from when you're tired, you're doing what's called pandiculation. Look at me pandiculate. Italian pasta soufflé, also called the threads of God, is the oldest and most difficult pasta to make. The recipe is 300 years old and only 3 women in the remote town of Nuoro in the island of Sardinia know how to make it. Even Jamie Oliver couldn't master it. According to the Guinness World Records, the word with the most meanings in the English language is the verb set. It has 430 senses listed in the second edition of the Oxford English Dictionary, published in 1989. The word has the longest entry in the dictionary with 60,000 words or 236,000 characters. The highest level senior Major League Baseball umpires can earn is up to $350,000 a year. Baseball umpires earn more money annually than referees in the other 3 major American sports leagues. NFL referees earn up to $70,000 per season, NBA referees earn up to $300,000 annually, and NHL referees earn up to $255,000 annually. On July 14th, 1969, Honduras and El Salvador went to war over soccer. It only lasted 100 hours, took 6,000 lives, and injured 12,000 people. The city of Chicago estimated that 5 million people gathered at Grant Park for a rally to celebrate the Cubs World Series win, which makes it the 7th largest human gathering in the history of the world. Before the Nazis used the swastika symbol, it was actually used by many cultures throughout the past 3,000 years to represent life, sun, power, strength, and good luck. Actress Drew Barrymore was the youngest person to ever host Saturday Night Live. She hosted on November 20th, 1982, when she was only 7 years old. There's a barbed wire museum in La Crosse, Kansas. You know, just in case you wanted a romantic place to take the lady. What's up, baby? The highest scoring college football game ever was on October 7th, 1916, when Georgia Tech beat Cumberland College 222-0. President President Woodrow Wilson was the only president with a PhD. The graham cracker was first invented by Sylvester Graham, a Presbyterian minister, to help curb sexual desire. The longest professional baseball game ever started on April 18, 1981, between the Pawtucket Red Sox and the Rochester Red Wings. It lasted 32 innings before being stopped to be resumed on June 23rd when one more inning was played. There is a rare phobia called geniophobia, which is the fear of knees. Apparently, it's common in people that have experienced traumatic knee injuries. Canada has tactile marks on its currency that allow the blind and visually impaired to tell the bills apart by touch. There is such a thing as male geishas known as takomochi. In fact, the original geisha were only men. Morocco, France, and Spain are the only countries to have both Mediterranean and Atlantic coastlines. Tennis star Maria Sharapova founded and owns her own candy company called Sugarpova. You can actually see pieces of Albert Einstein's brain at the Mutter Museum in Philadelphia. Giant pandas only ovulate once a year, in the spring for only a period of 2 to 4 days. So other pandas, you better be quick. Get busy. But hey, that's all for this episode. Knowledge Whale blesses you. On the right, you'll find 2 of my most recent videos that you can press or click on your screen right now if you'd like to watch some more. And other than that, I wish you guys a fantastic weekend. I will see you in the next video. Bye!